G'day folks, Chris McLean back again with another episode, and today I've got Tom Brown from Innova Digital, and they help e-commerce businesses develop quality content and purposes. Tom, thanks so much for swinging by, mate. Great to have you here.
Hey, thank you everybody, and a big shout out to Chris. Thank you for having me on the show, man. I'm excited to be here.
Pleasure, man, pleasure. So we always like to start at the start. So did you sort of have a marketing and branding and design background sort of coming into Innova, or how did this whole thing sort of kick off for you?
No, I guess I kind of came into it maybe kind of organically, like how most people do in the video creative space. That just ended up happening. A couple years ago was running a recording studio, and I was a big person into music for a long time, and then I found out that people wanted to record their music as well as film music videos, and so I decided I'd buy a camera and fill that need of people. I'd have tons of artists coming to the studio, and just to get some more money in my pocket, I guess I was like, oh, you want to do a music video? I got you. So I started off doing videos that way, and then as time went on, I realized that broke rappers are not the people with money to fuel the next step here. Yeah. So when I was graduating college, I decided to start this company instead of going to work for another company that I guess probably would have been in a similar space. And kind of throughout that time, I had with opening a couple of small businesses in addition to the studio, figured out how to start a website, do logos, stuff like that, film little commercials, do ads, stuff like that. So I had tiptoed into the industry that way. And then as time has gone on, I think a lot of people in the agency space, and you can tell me if this was true, but when they start their agency, kind of shoot wide in the sense that they're like, oh, we'll do all these things. And then the more you read, the more you listen, the more you're told to not offer all these things and offer just very small verticals, right? And so video, and specifically video that lives online and e-commerce focused stuff is kind of our bread and butter now. So that's pretty much how I got into all of it.
Yeah, cool. So largely kind of video content, or sort of all sorts of?
So the majority of our work is like product video stuff focused, but not product in the video. Like, we obviously do ads, but we try to we cater to a slightly higher end market, so companies that are a little bit more established. We work with a lot of like kind of big time Amazon sellers, and Amazon sellers are weird in the sense that they don't usually have too much of like a life off of Amazon. Like a lot of them just kind of like live off of the traffic that they've kind of just gathered up in like the SEO of Amazon, and they have sometimes no company website, no anything. And so there's a lot of these Amazon sellers that have pretty big businesses, they're 7-8 figure businesses, or at least sales wise, and they're run by like 3 people in like their closet, or not their closet, their big mansion out in Florida, but like, they're not even on LinkedIn. They like, they're ghosts offline, which is weird. And so we work, we luckily can get in with companies like that. And usually with Amazon and a lot of these other companies, once they are starting to make some money, they're willing to invest a little bit more into like nicer videos. So I wouldn't put us on like top tier commercial production, but we're definitely, we don't shoot things on our cell phones and stuff like that anymore. But yeah, pretty much content. We do a lot of ads based stuff now, but I think our main product more so is kind of mainstay hero ads or big product videos, where we're usually going a little bit above and beyond, and doing pieces that are a little bit more like branding focused than like pure, here's our product, buy it kind of thing. It's for companies that don't have any sort of reputation online. We try to kind of establish a little bit of reputation and credibility through the video.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's interesting seeing that classic, I guess, sort of advertising, classic TV ad kind of style coming to e-com stores. And I said people that that level of brand and that level of sort of context to it. Say a smaller business, but a 7-8 figure business is hardly a smaller business. But these kind of niche opportunity businesses inside these weird sort of e-com platforms. It's a really, really distinct market out there. But it's interesting to see that you're bringing that sort of more classic video production sort of style to these types of sellers.
And it's interesting because like it's there's a lot of players in our space that kind of started at like one end or the other, as far as like, sometimes it'll be a pretty big production company that saw the opportunity in e-commerce and decided to kind of not dilute, but like offer services that are not 50 grand a video to do. And then there are plenty of companies that saw the success of kind of like user generated content, or basically taking just like cell phone video of things, putting some flashy titles over it. And then putting that on social and getting, you know, tons of hits off of that. And then kind of built an agency doing content from kind of like the bottom floor up. And so I like to kind of think that we're somewhere in the middle, where I think at our root, we're still like a production company. We try to do everything with a little bit more precision and detail and planning than like kind of straight whip out your phone or a camcorder and get the job done. But we also don't, you know, pitch, nor do we compete with companies that are real production companies that deal with big time, big boy budgets. So I don't know. I think it's kind of an interesting space. There's a wide gap with all these sort of things, and what companies are willing to kind of pay and expect. I think with all things digital, and you probably can relate to this, there's the market always wants to know how much for like a video, or they want to get to price pretty quickly and stuff. And with creative things, it's tough to put things into like a prepackaged template, and for it to be like really effective. And so with some businesses, again, I've worked with big businesses, I've worked with smaller businesses that are not those 7 and 8 figure brands, but it's always interesting to see who's willing to invest more. I've had smaller companies that you can kind of tell this was like a big deal for them, that see a lot of, you know, great stuff after it. And then I've worked with like plenty of big companies. I'm like, oh, these guys should be like balling, have a big time budget, and then wanted to get everything done for $1,000, you know, and it's just like, okay, can't quite do that. So
yeah, it's funny how that plays out. You sort of assume that if finance are going to give you more money, right? They're going to pay more, but it's not necessarily
it's not necessarily like that.
Yeah. So how do you find that balance between finding the clients that are willing to invest that money? Is it sort of around value proposition and getting them to understand the value of putting video into an e-commerce store? Is there genuine value in? Obviously there is, but is there?
Yeah.
What is that tractional value of having video content instead of just images inside, like
yeah. I mean, so personally, I don't go out of my way to sell people that kind of need to be sold on video. The majority of people coming in my pipeline are people that have typically invested some already into it, but they haven't put quite as much as they probably like should be. And so I try not to like deal with people that you kind of have to at every turn describe it how this video is going to absolutely make them 7-time return on ad spend, without people always want those sort of guarantees, and companies that typically I'm sure you've seen some memes about that, but the client that is handing you the check with like the expectation of like, this is my life's money, this is such a big deal, really don't screw this up, are usually like the clients that are like an absolute pain to work with. And so I, again, like if we get on a call and you're expecting me to like sell you on why video is important and why it makes sense, probably not going to be the best fit. And now, with that being said, like obviously I have to sell what I do to people, but it typically comes in the form of like, okay, we've gotten to a point where this is what you want to do. You have this new product. It's got no forward facing publicity, no content, no anything. And sometimes the client will come to me like, oh, we just want, a video. And it's like, okay. And then, so I think the sales part and me kind of guiding them comes in with a little bit more of like, let's break it down and think about why you actually need this. And I think with everything nowadays, I don't want to say it's a quantity over quality game, but to some point it is. And luckily at this day and age and with technology and such, it's a lot easier to take something that is like a completed video or a project. And if you kind of go into it with the expectation of delivering more, I feel like it usually ends up giving more value back to the client. I can't tell you how many times that we've been asked to do just one video for this, for it to be 30 seconds, blah, 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 60 seconds. And then I kind of end up changing the conversation. It's like, well, why don't we do 5 videos? We'll do 2 like this. We'll do 3 shorter ad variants like this. We'll do a set of lifestyle photography, because we're going to be shooting with the model and at the nice Airbnb anyway. We might as well do some shots there. And so I think that's where the sales side of things comes in for me. But I don't, like I said, I try not to deal with people where I have to kind of convince them that video is effective, because I don't know. That's just a fight I'm not willing to go into.
Yeah, if they're say running that sort of size store, you don't want to have to be convincing people. It's generally doesn't end up as a good client.
It's a positive, no, exactly.
Wrangle into using your services. It's a pretty surefire way to say, here's my life savings, here's my $500. I'm looking for my 10 videos, and and
I want them to be perfect.
Calling you at 3 a.m. going, where's the video? I just had an idea. Can we change it? Here's the change request.
And it's so funny is like, one tool that I use pretty often is I ask people to send me a reference video. It's like, everyone, I'd like a video. Okay, what do you want it to look like? What do you want in there? And typically people don't know, but they'll find some video that is similar, which is, what we call just a reference video. And like 9 times out of 10, the reference video is typically like the best example of something. It's like, we want this Gymshark style video. I just had somebody message me recently where they sent me a video from Gymshark, which, if you're familiar with Gymshark, is a pretty big company at this point and spends a shit ton of money on marketing, and especially on content. And sent this video with like probably 10 athletes in it. It was just like kind of a Nike ad, kind of hype you up. There was nothing too crazy about it. But they're asking me to quote this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I end up telling them that it's going to be this much. And of course that blows them away. And they're like, well, our budget was actually $500. And I'm like, all right, well, what did you want me to like pay these athletes and stuff? Like, not even thinking about me. Like, you wanted 6 people in this video for like, I'm going to pay them like $50. I don't even understand how that works. And so, as you said, it's people, the trade-off of expectations versus reality. But, I mean, you got to talk to everybody. And there's been plenty of times where people say, here's your budget. Here's the budget we have for this. I'll explain why this is not correct. And it'll go up. So I guess that's all of us, right? That's part of a salesman, is to,
so highlight the value, right? So help them to understand why. So interesting. So you can create more content. Generally, when you start to create those additional videos, you're sort of thinking about, you sort of mentioned earlier, a lot of these companies exist in a single platform and they don't have much sort of forward-facing brand. Is that part of that conversation of, let's get some Facebook traction, let's get some social traction, let's get some Instagram up, and this is where you can sort of repurpose this content out? Or is it purely for video inside the ecom platform?
It depends. I would say that
pretty space, right? So.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like I said, the Amazon people, it's like, I don't know what it is about Amazon people, but it's like a cult society. And they all hang out with each other, but they're like, again, like ghosts offline, like no website, don't have LinkedIn profiles. Like, they're really weird. And so companies like that, typically, I don't try to like overly push like social media promotion. Like, obviously when we do content for you, it's, stuff that you can use on tons of different platforms and get a lot of mileage out of. But we don't try to like strong arm people into like, I know you've never done anything besides post like 3 times in 2016 on Facebook, that like, you really got to get back out here and do it. And again, with Amazon people, the traffic is there. It's already warm traffic. So when if people search for a water bottle, if your water bottle's already ranked number 1, it's right there. You don't pay for that typically. You just live off the legacy business. And so honestly, clients like that are not as like ideal for me, because the job type that I'd be most interested in is more consistent work. Companies that need more consistent content put out.
Yeah.
And these Amazon companies aren't just like that. You know, they kind of want the main product video for the listing, which will look great, and they're willing to pay a little bit more to like get a nice video. And, you know, that's pretty much what they're looking for there. But like I said, on the other side of things, companies that are a little bit more direct to consumer and rely heavily on social ads, you know, have like a Shopify store and don't have 99% of their traffic come from Amazon. Those companies definitely push stuff and value having more posts for social media. So that's why it's like, again, people will view like, we want one video. I'm like, all right, let's make it one project. And within that project, let's talk videos, let's talk photos, let's talk like, we can even do some graphics and stuff for you. So you can really take 1 day worth of shooting and stretch that content out pretty extensively. But again, there's some companies that just don't take advantage of that. I think there are plenty of people that tried Facebook in 2017 and 18 and didn't see tons and tons of success and like haven't posted since, you know? So it's kind of weird, but that's what I've noticed.
Yeah, that's really interesting. A very unique ecosystem. I did have at one point, I tried running an Amazon FBA business, so sort of understand a little bit about how it all operates. And yeah, you can kind of be pretty clandestine in the back behind just a random brand name. And if you can get ranked, as you're saying, just one, if you can get it, go. Is the knack and the skill is getting the listings up, right? It's getting the number one spot in the search, and that's sort of the knack of that game, is to get a really highly active listing.
Yes.
So imagine video content and that sort of thing helps with that. But yeah, it's a
luckily Amazon for the longest time didn't. You could just have the video on the listing. Like when you scroll through the images, the video is like the last thing. Amazon within the last year finally rolled out, you know, like if you just pull up anything on Amazon now, the first couple listings are sponsored. And that was their way of, you know, doing paid advertising within Amazon. But now you can finally do video ads. So now everyone that was just asking for the one mainstay product listing video, they're like, all right, but let's do a couple of ad variants and stuff like that for them too. So you can kind of like, it's at least a new opportunity where Amazon's like paid paid platform is kind of weak compared to like Facebook as far as like what you're actually able to do with it.
Yeah,
it's coming around now. It's coming around now. So hopefully all the Amazon brands that I work with that, like I said, are happy to do videos here and there, but not like as consistent content. Hopefully that changes a little bit as Amazon continues to create their a little bit more robust system.
Yeah. So in terms of like the actual videos and the content and the styling, are you sort of interested in what's the balance between, is just sort of talking about sort of lifestyle aspect videos versus just here's my headphone pods and we're going to 360 them and have it very much product centric? What's sort of the balance there? Again, it's probably very
it's a good question.
But yeah, just interested, what's the sort of playoff between here's the product, here's, you can look at it, you can sort of get an understanding of what it looks like in motion, but then here's also, I guess, the use case and the models and the lifestyle component. Is that vary between brands or categories?
I think it varies between brands and definitely between like content providers too. I think we kind of cater our approach depending on the client and what's going to end up happening with the piece. Like I said, if it's a video for an Amazon client that is not necessarily hoping so much that it's going to be an ad success, but they really just want a nice quality listing video, that's when you can like chill it out a little bit more. It doesn't need to be super action packed in the first 3 seconds. It doesn't have to have that kind of scroll stopping ability. And so for clients like that, I actually prefer doing videos like that. I feel like that's a little bit more like true to, I don't know, creative influence. Like you kind of get to make it how you'd want to actually do it. And you don't have to, there goes the drill. And you don't have to kind of make it clickbaity, if that makes sense. And so I prefer doing stuff like that. I think that we've kind of found a little bit more of a niche doing videos that are a little bit more, like I said, focused on branding and what we'd call like perceived value of a company. Again, like a lot of these Amazon brands don't have like a brand at all, right? And so we'll kind of do what we can in the video to make them seem a little bit larger than they probably are, or that like, wow, this video looks really great, I'm sure the product is decent too, you know? So we're happy to do a little bit more of a slow approach. But for the clients that do rely on content for ads more, like, you know, there's plenty of projects we've been a part of that like the main videos were kind of like a second thought. You know, they really just wanted 15 to 20 scroll stopper type material. And even with those, I'd say that like I just have a hard time going out of my way to be like extra clickbaity, in the sense of like, I'm sure we've all seen it, you know, with when you're scrolling on Facebook and you just see some, I don't know, in my opinion, it's like kind of cringy stuff. I try not to position ourselves as like the best fit if that's purely what you're going for. We try to partner with companies that are interested in, like I said, a little bit more of the branding side of things. They're willing to take the videos a little bit slower and for them to like look better and a little bit more cohesive and put together and well balanced, opposed to like flashy 360s, big pop-up texts, girls in bikinis, you know? And so I don't know. Yeah, that's like, I mean, like I said, we got to kind of cater our approach per the client and per the job. But yeah, I definitely don't want to make it too amateur, clickbaity.
Yeah. So, and for that sort of client, is there a lot of times where you're putting the client in for, like, if I'm an entrepreneur, I'm sort of the head of a business, is there a tendency now that you're sort of positioning them as the figurehead of the business, or is it more your classic Nike, Adidas brand lifestyle, where it's sort of more that sort of modeled sort of version?
Honestly, I can't remember a time on like the product with like an e-commerce client where the client was part of the project at all.
Right.
You know, so I'm in Chicago here, and honestly, I don't think I've worked on one project with a local client from an e-commerce standpoint. And so, and again, with them being ghosts, the majority of them, like I've been like, oh, do you want me to mention like a little bit about your story and how you grew up here and, you know, slaved away at this business for 7 years? Like, no, I don't care about that.
Right.
You know, so seen as, again, I think at our root, I'm just a video production company. We still do maybe 25% of our business is like local work where we're filming a little bit more what you're talking about, where we're sitting down with the owners of a company and we're talking about, you know, why they started it, blah, 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 what we call video business cards. And so we just did one recently that we just put out for like a garage suite company. So if you're into cars, I'm sure there's probably stuff like that in Australia because you guys have tons of outdoor activities, but they're like garages that you can customize. And it's kind of like a little, not a vacation home, but for rich people, it's like a man cave kind of deal. Right. So for that, the owner and the founder and the developer, you know, his interview is like, I don't want to say 90% of the video, but it's his voiceover is crucial to the video, right? If we don't have him talking about it, and then we had one of his tenants or one of the people that, you know, lives there bought a unit as kind of like a, you know, customer testimonial in there. But like without those, we'd be screwed, right? Because it's like I can do cool videos of cars rolling through and drone shots of a big car show, but he does a good job, and, you know, with some coaching, they're there to like sell it. I don't want to make it sound like it's more of like an infomercial at that point, but that's when the owners and the founders are definitely more involved and want to be part of it. But on the e-commerce side of things, at least the companies we've been dealing with now, it's usually more just like, we just want cool ads. Like, I don't need to be the face of it. In fact, I'd prefer if I wasn't anywhere close to it, you know? So I don't, it's kind of weird. But
that's really, really interesting because we say, again, to generalize, we hear a lot about storytelling and being the face of the brand and having this authenticity and this genuineness about being the face of the brand and being part of the brand, and your brand is you. And there's a lot of that sort of particularly in the social market. But yeah, it's really, really cool to hear, again, that just the classic stuff, the classic, how do we take a product and tell a story without any of that personality, right? The product is the personality. How do we craft that? How do we create that story around something that's not based on a human or a personal brand? It's classic Mad Men style advertising, right? It's what Nike does so amazing. It's what Porsche, these big companies do so well. And that content can have a tendency to kind of get lost in the social media world, where we assume it's all about me and me as brand. And I love to see that classic style of advertising still kicking on.
Honestly, that the style that's a little bit more deep and personal, I think, is where all of us creative people, at least from a videographer standpoint, I feel like that's the sort of content we'd probably really like to be producing. And like you said, let's say on like the e-commerce side, there's definitely founders that probably have a good story to tell, and it would resonate with their audience. But that sort of content is like, I think, the most it can seem like money kind of not going down the drain, but like brand building content is typically pretty expensive to produce, and it has like the longest turnaround to some degree, right? And so the majority of clients that we deal with, and I would say the majority of people, it's like talking about themselves and doing pieces that are like, again, just branding focused. Like if you recall Nike ads where it's like, they don't talk about the thread count and the polyester and where they get their cotton from. They just make their stuff look really cool, right? Apple's kind of the same way. They don't necessarily go out of the way to talk, technical specs. They show people enjoying it, loving it, doing that sort of stuff. And they can do that because they're, big time companies and have budgets for that. And I think that for brands at that level, you can kind of get away with doing marketing like that. And it's in fact like crucial, but until you get to that point, I think it's kind of hard to sell companies on like, let's do kind of light and fluffy content that's maybe more fun and a little bit more personal, but like doesn't quite have that raw sales part that at least the people I'm working with now, that's what they'd like. So
that's sort of that tribal advertising, that tribal marketing, right? It's like they're not selling the shoes, they're selling the lifestyle, they're selling the community, the tribe. They're selling hey, if you buy these shoes, this is what you're going to look like. This is what you get to do in your life.
It's huge,
not selling the product. Whereas it makes total sense that in somewhere like an e-com store, I'm there to learn about the product. I don't really care. I do want to find out the thread count and what it looks like and what the material, how it moves, or how it actually functions, what the buttons do. That's what I'm there searching for. I'm looking for, how does this product work? So it makes total sense that in that ecosystem, that type of ad, here's the thing, flips up like
there
that.
It is.
AirPods come out.
It's wild.
That's the mode, right? That's the modality. That's the context that I'm in when I'm looking at that. That content. So really interesting. So it seems that
and I think let's, because I want to include you here and bring you into it. I'm sure at some point this podcast is to bring work to you, right? But it's kind of veiled behind I don't know, the community aspect. It's a longer life cycle of things. What you could have done with your time and money is just put it into raw ads that are like, hey, come work with me, right? Come work with me. But you're kind of doing it a different way, which I think is, for the record, the correct way. But there are so many brands that I don't know if it's just like the marketing team points them in one direction or not the other, but like they don't see it as black and white as that. And they just want the stuff that's like, work with me, 20% off, work with me, buy it. And
buy it now.
I don't say it's like a jab, right hook kind of thing, but I think that even with the majority of people I work with, and definitely the majority of companies that I see, they still are pretty hell-bent on putting money into ads and content that are just straight up selling and not as much like telling and informing, I guess. And
I guess depends on the ecosystem and the context of the platform.
That's absolutely.
It's like the difference between Facebook and YouTube, right? When I'm on YouTube or Google, I'm searching for an answer to something. On Facebook, I'm just hanging out. So there's when a video scrolls past my feed in Facebook, it has to be kind of attention grabbing, and it's related to something that I like on Facebook, but I'm not particularly looking for it. So it's a whole different context to now. I mean, I'm on Amazon looking for a new water bottle. Which one which one's space that it's not going to fall over. That's what I'm looking for. So that if I go looking for a water bottle and Chris pops up and he's like, hey, we make them from recycled things, and we do all this stuff and we use recycled sand, and here's my story and my journey. At that point, that's not what I care about.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that in that context, it's like, here's the product, here's the thing that I'm trying to get across. Make it look sexy, make it look cool. It's much more about that.
No, you're 100% correct. Yeah, and I think that to do a good job on all platforms, you kind of have to give everyone a little bit more of an attention and take them for what they are, and not try to like take the same content you put on Instagram and Facebook and apply it to YouTube and stuff like that. Like you said, it's a different audience. It's a different mindset when people are consuming that sort of stuff. And I think that the majority of brands right now are kind of focusing on the Facebook version of content and not the YouTube version, let's say, or the LinkedIn version even.
Yeah. Again, it's that balance, right? It's that understanding when, as you said, jab, 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 right hook. You've got to give value and build tribe and build community and trust and value and all that stuff. But at some point, we're a business and you've got to sell something. So there is that balance. You can do fluffy content forever, but at some point, we've got to switch into sales mode, right? We've got to switch from brand and marketing and story and, okay, you know, the right me now. Now here's the right hook. Here's the thing you can buy from to access to me, all that kind of stuff. There's a point it has to shift, and then you go back to nice, fluffy, value-adding stuff. But striking that balance, I think, can be a challenge.
Yeah, no, I agree, 100%.
Yeah, so super interesting conversation, man. Really interested to sort of bring that e-commerce perspective. And sort of understand what's happening over on that side of the world, because we can tend to get caught up in the social and Facebook stream sort of thing, which is a very different world than just product selling, right? Product sales and components, and here's the thing, come buy it, 20% off. It's a very different structure.
What are like the majority of people on your show? I mean, obviously it's people in the agency space, where have like most of them been kind of focused? I'm guessing that I'm probably slightly on a different side of things.
Fairly broad. Quite a few e-com agencies come through that sort of work with e-com brands, Amazon, PPC. So I had quite a few. It's pretty good balance between sort of e-com and then all other, everything from digital and SMMA, social media, through to PR, sort of traditional full service agencies. So it's really a spectrum of advertising, creative businesses, creative agencies. But being quite a few, do have quite a few e-com episodes out there. So there's certainly a space that's
it's growing.
Lot moving into that space, and obviously it's grown in the last 18 months or so as well. So good space to go and play in. Well,
so tell me, in your I don't know how long you've been doing this, but I'm assuming a good chunk of time, what are some hot tips and tricks for peak performance here? What are some of the common threads amongst people?
Yeah, it's a long story. The top few that I give out, in terms of if you're an agency owner and you're just looking to get better at what you're doing, it's all about, the biggest thing is distraction management, right? And instead of trying to manage time, you want to start to leverage your attention and your energy. So stuff just like sleeping better, right? Eating better, showing up to your day regenerated and ready to go, and actually creating that time deliberately, intentionally putting that time on your calendar to recover from your day. Have some time at the end of your day where you're just chilling out. You're not just burning, or I like that, being in kind of gray zone all the time of burning through your days. You want to oscillate with your biology, with your natural kind of energy, and you want downtime in your day. So every 90 minutes to 2 hours, taking a 10-15 minute break, just getting away from the work, letting your brain go off and kind of do all the great stuff that it does in connecting, doing pattern recognition, creativity, solving your problems so when you're not thinking about them. So when you come back into work, you drop back into the work and your brain's kind of done a bit of the solving. Then when you're getting back into work, you want to eliminate distraction. It's like, these things are a nightmare.
I know. Yeah. I finally got rid of Facebook on my phone.
Binging.
I turned it off on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just delete all that stuff. Maybe put it back on the weekend if you have to. But yeah, just literally deleting apps, turning notifications off, because that distraction, being pulled off of task, is what destroys most people. Where you think you're being productive, but you've actually done a couple hours work over a 10-hour day just because you're so pulled between tasks, multitasking. There's a lot that just goes into distraction management. So distraction management's the main piece, and then just making sure that you're showing up the best that you can be physically and attention-wise, day after day after day after the performance game. It's just being your best every day and understanding what that means. That I got to go hard, but then I've also got to rest and recover as well, right? And then come back again the next day and do the same thing.
Yeah, and I think that, I'm guessing you probably started this maybe within quarantine, right? And you've probably, like, I don't know, I'm getting to that point where I feel like I spend all of my time in this chair right here. That I, wake up, come sit here, do some work, edit, leave for like a minute, go make some food, come back, do this, work. And then at the end of my day, it's like, okay, I'm not big into TV. I'm more of like, I'll just binge YouTube or something. And it's sitting right here again. And it's, if you're not out shooting, like, I feel like you said, distractions, as well as, like, I feel like as time has gone on, just being at home has become a distraction, and it's like hard to feel like 100% rejuvenated when you're kind of looking at the same thing every day. So
that's important to try and break that up a bit.
Yeah, you've been moving the office around the house?
Yeah, as much as you can. That's not ideal. When you're doing work, you want work just to be kind of seamless and friction-free. So you want to ideally just have everything ready to go and drop in and get to work. You don't want to have to, okay, where am I working from today? I'm going to go to the kitchen. I've got to plug everything in. I've got to set everything up. Is the Wi-Fi connected? And you're going to burn energy, and you're going to burn time. Your attention's dissipating. When you're working, you just want to go work time, drop in and get your work done. But then you also just want to kind of switch out of that and go, right, now I've done with that work block. I'm going to go outside, even if I just stand outside for 10 minutes and look at the sky or get some sun or just go for a walk. And ideally, I know it's hard when particularly when you're in lockdown, but leave the room, right? Just go somewhere else in the house, just get out of that space, because it can get just being in that. And I'm the same sitting here in front of this mic day after day after day. It can start to feel like too much. But yeah, you want a workspace where you sit down, it's friction free, you can get in and get your work done, but then you all make sure that space just to get that mental break, and sometimes just physically breaking away from that space, even if it is just go stand on your balcony, do some push-ups, do some yoga, have a stretch, 10, 15 minutes, then come back. That's that. If you're doing that regularly during the day, it's going to pick your energy back up, allow you to drop your attention back in, maintain energy sort of over the long haul. And then at the end of your day, you want some sort of recovery protocol, whether that's taking a bath, taking a cold shower, again, yoga, stretching, exercise, all that good stuff, and just baking that into a daily routine.
So I'm guessing you are not an advocate for the 12-hour workday and no days off kind of vibe. You seem to have a different mindset towards it.
Not as a long haul game. Sometimes you just got to grit it up and you got to do that stuff, because that's reality, right? That's agency life. Sometimes you just got to get that shit done. You just got to get shit done and power through. But as a long-term plan, it doesn't stack up. The science and now biology just doesn't stack up to pure grittiness, pure grind over the long haul. It just burns.
Which I'd understand,
and burnt out and fried. And so it's important to kind of roll with your own biology and take breaks both during the day, but then also weekly, monthly, quarterly, that kind of thing, and get that recovery. Just like working out of the gym, right? If you
I get it.
If you picked up a dumbbell and just pounded a dumbbell for 12 hours, you'd blow your muscles out.
Sure.
Right. You got to do the work, but then you've also got to recover it. You got to the growth happens in the downtime, right? The growth doesn't happen in the pushing when you're doing the lifting. It happens in the recovery phase. So we want the same thing with our business and our lives.
Sure.
We want to allow that time for kind of creativity to flourish in our brains, to go off and search for answers and all that good stuff, and also just recover our energy. So when we come back the next day, we're starting at a really good place. We're starting at 100 rather than coming back burned out, starting at 20 and trying to burn through a day with low energy. And then just over the long haul, it just doesn't work out so well.
Yeah, no, I would believe so. And I guess that's I'm happy to hear that, opposed to you finding that the common thread is that you got to put in 15 hours a day or else you'll fall apart. So
yeah. No, I mean, it just doesn't stack up. Doesn't stack up to sort of what we understand about just human biology these days, and psychology, and and
everybody's losing it a little bit these days too.
Yeah, it's even harder now. So we just got to be really intentional with our time, really intentional with our days, and make sure we're baking this stuff in and doing the right activities day in, day out, so we can perform over the long haul.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, I don't want to stay too long. I know it's probably about that time, Chris. I know you got your time blocked off. I don't want to creep into the next block. So,
well, yeah, we've got more shows on this morning. Always pounding through the shows here on the show. So, appreciate the question. It's always interesting.
I appreciate being on. And yeah, of course, I wanted to ask you about you. And I'll shoot you a DM after this. Find out a little bit more about you. But awesome. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show. Hopefully, what I was able to tell you opened your eyes a little bit to what I do and what the content world looks like. And any viewers, appreciate you guys watching as well.
Yeah, if people want to come and connect with you, there's a few places up on screen, but where's the best place for them to hit you up and get connected?
I guess Facebook. I don't know. Facebook works. Yeah, that you'll actually get to me then. That works out best.
Yeah, exactly.
LinkedIn, however you guys want to do it.
Get to have a real virtual connection. So I'll drop all those links. The world we live in. I'll drop all those links in the show notes, so you can pound one of those links and go connect with Tom. But it's been super fun. A lot of deep insights into a different part of the ad world out there. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Take care, everybody. Right.
Appreciate it. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.